Welcome back to the PDR Coach Podcast Trainers Edition, where I interview the top trainers in our industry for you so you can make the best decision on where to go learn the art and skill of PDR. Welcome to the podcast, Marty.
Hello, sir. Glad to be here.
All right, we're going to run through these questions. You give the best answers. I'll try to clarify a little bit, but I'll keep my opinion out of it. What is your name and the name of your training school?
I'm named Marty Runik, and the school is Top Gun PDR Training.
Awesome. And you have a website, I assume?
Yeah, topgunpdrtraining.com.
Perfect. That's easy. Where is the training facility located?
We're about 30 miles directly east of Sacramento, California, in Cameron Park.
Yes, sir. Are you, or have you ever been a technician, a PDR technician? If so, for how long?
Oh, yeah. That's kind of a complicated one to answer. I actually did old school metal finishing back in the very early 70s. And believe it or not, PDR was something you learned. You picked up that skill. Back then it was all, lacquer or single stage enamel. It was super fragile. So we could do, at the most, dime-sized dent. Mm-hmm. And couldn't have any depth to it at all because the paint was so fragile. We put a heat gun on it and used like an overhead reflection and did it like that. And it did that for off and on for a little bit, but then when, obviously the paint got a lot more flexible, that changed things. But I was making really good money in the body shop and I didn't want to change. And then in 95, the bottom fell out of the industry as far as body shops go. I was a heavy hitter. I used to do frame repair. I used to teach it too, making tons of money, and the insurance industry totally screwed that up. So I decided, you know what, going full-time into PDR, and I've been doing it ever since. And been training since right around 2004, 2003, 2004.
Gotcha. Why or how, I guess, did you start a training school? And you just said you've been training since 2002, 2004, but why'd you go into the school?
Well, another interesting story. I got started I was in Doording.com. I'm sure you remember that forum.
I do. Very back end of it. I was not.
Exactly. Yeah. And there was a couple of guys that were complaining, one veteran and another guy that they had gotten ripped off by, we call them training mills. So I ended up training for free, just a few days, just to get them over the hurdles. It went really well. And so they got back on the forum and started, all kinds of rave reviews. Then a guy that was having really bad problems called, and I actually had to have him for 2 weeks. He wrote like a 2-page testimonial on Doording. It was just super long, and started getting more and more requests for it. And went really well, but I was still had my dent business going. There was no way I was going to make that transition. So I trained for about 10% of the time, did dents for 90. And I had a heart attack in 2005, and that pretty much changed everything, scared the heck out of my wife. And she basically told me, you're going to do what you want to do. What's less stress for you? And I said, well, she said, you seem happier when you're training. I said, oh, yeah, I always have been. She basically told me that's what you're doing. So the decision was kind of made for me. And actually, I am happier doing it. I've trained in everything I've ever done: sheet metal repair, heavy hitting with the frame machines. I used to train for Chief Easy Liner and some other places, and it just always seems more enjoyable. The day goes by super quick. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Also, how many techs have you trained in PDR? I guess I have to specify.
Yeah, it'd be in PDR somewhere between 600 and 650.
Okay. Any handle on the success of the techs, or how many are still pushing today, or any, if you have actual numbers or any kind of feeling?
It'd be the vast majority of them. And some of that's due to me, and some of it's due to the fact that I cheat. I pre-qualify my students. I will not train anyone. I make sure that they've done a marketing survey, that they've got the basic requirements. I've got a bunch of videos on YouTube that I send them to, and they have to watch all 7 videos. After they've done that, they call me back. Does that sound like you? Yeah, it does. And I interview them some more. And once I'm sure they can, do well at this, I put them in as soon as I can.
Gotcha. How many people do you train at a time?
2 only.
2 at a time.
That's it.
How long is the training?
2 weeks for the beginning class.
2 at a time. Why should a new tech pick your training school? Like, what's unique about it?
Well, the biggest thing is some people say I'm brutally honest. I wouldn't go that far, but I definitely tell it the way it is. My website's probably like nothing most people that read it go, oh my gosh, this guy trying not to train, what's going on here? And they watch the YouTube videos and they go, you're so negative. And it's not a matter of being negative. It's telling that this is not an easy trade to get into. As I'm sure you know, you have to be a certain personality type. You got to have certain skill sets that most guys, don't have. And I'm very blunt about saying 1 out of 10 people can learn to do this trade at all. And if you don't have these characteristics and skills, you really shouldn't be getting into this.
All right. What do you offer your trainees outside of physical PDR training? And I'll give a couple examples. Tools or helping to purchase tools, like a tools list.
Right.
Do you help with PDR pricing, marketing, sales, anything outside of just like physical push on?
Right. Yeah. We generally customize a set. I deal with 4 different manufacturers. You can't just go to one company and buy a tool set. In my opinion, if you're going to get a really good quality set where one tool does a wide variety of jobs, you got to pick and choose. So I help them choose, and it's different for every student, but core tools are pretty much the same.
Gotcha. Anything else outside of training?
Well, the marketing is, I've handled that. I got a Facebook page now for my students only. It's got tons of information, how to market to every conceivable place out there that I can think of that I've done in my trade. And of course, it's different, different parts of the country are wildly different. So you can't really do pricing. It varies too much.
Gotcha. Can you summarize kind of your philosophy on PDR training and how it works from like just a high level of how metal moves or anything like that?
Yeah, as far as the physical aspect of it, probably the biggest thing I do I think sets me apart from other people doing is I custom make the reflection for every tech's eyes. The reason I do that is that was my biggest stumbling block in PDR for decades. Right, I was trying to do this and it just it went all right. Long story short, I ran into an optics engineer at Bell Labs, customer, and he told me that I was using the wrong reflection. It's like, how would you know that? Stayed with him. He taught me an awful lot. And with his help, I was able to come up with it's a fog, but it's a different type of fog, and it's different for everybody's eyes. So he showed me how to test people, and I do that. And it changed. In 2 weeks, I can do what a lot of people do in a month because they're finding their tool tip in, no more than 30 minutes. And I mean, very, very accurately, but it's because their vision's optimized. The fog is optimized for them. And it usually takes 1 to 2 hours to get them to that point where I figured out the fog, we hook it up and it's like, okay, I can see now, that was always the biggest problem for me. And for most techs that I know that, I really can't see what I'm doing. So that's my biggest thing. The second thing is I do PDR pretty much the way the Fairmont method of metalworking used to be. And some people may be familiar with that. That's how the old time techs used to use metal, or move metal rather. So it's not so much a matter of moving metal, it's releasing the pressure in the right sequence. So if you get a golf ball sized dent, in fact, I have a video where I do a golf ball sized dent on the very first one and she'll slow it down so they can see what I'm doing. Make those first few pushes right, get everything going. You shouldn't have to use any tap downs in your work, in my opinion. Tap downs are great for glue pulling, obviously, and for other things, but not to fix mistakes in your work. So if you're making a bunch of highs, you're wasting time, you're hurting your dent, and it's not going to go well for you. You're never going to get that 98, 99% repair that we try to get. So basically, I do not move metal. I release pressure in the right sequence. That's for small dents and large dents. Fairmont method really shows when you get to doing larger dents. In fact, I've got some videos on YouTube where I go through the theory and then I demonstrate the theory on live panels. It makes a huge difference in finishing. It really does. I mean, big time. So I do PDR more like an old school metal guy. I was a classically trained Fairmont tech in fact, I served a 4-year apprenticeship back in the 70s with maybe some of your listeners would know or remember the name. Well, probably not. Anyway, back then you served apprenticeships. Yeah, and if it not for that, I'm sure I'd be doing PDR like everybody else. I wouldn't know any different.
Mm-hmm. Do you teach anything about ergonomics or protecting your body?
Oh gosh, yes. From personal experience, dude, I'll tell you what, we try to get them into a flat bars. Anything you can do with a flat bar, working upside down, very, very definitely helps. And a wide variety of positions. We don't just do one. Like there's a certain way that I think you need to work fenders if you're going to keep yourself from getting elbow issues. And you got to take the pressure off the wrist, man. Whatever you've got to do. So yeah, I'm a big believer in the fact that you probably know I developed the first practical adjustable handle tools. Didn't make a dime on them. But that went a long way to easing the pain on the wrist. And yeah, I'm very, very big in ergonomics. You have to be if you're going to survive.
Sure, sure. You may have answered this, but I'll ask it. Specifically, do you train with lines, fog, or both?
Lines, fog, and natural reflection, all three. They've all got their strengths. Some of these guys want to argue about which is best. They are all good for certain things, and one overcomes the strengths or weaknesses of the other. So no, we do all three. Primarily fog, though. Fog will do most of the job, but lines and natural reflections are, I think they're a must also. And now, having said that, there are some people that cannot learn off of fog. I mean, it's not eyes, it's more of a brain type of thing. They call them digital thinkers versus analog. They have to learn on a line board. There's no other way. I would say about 5% of the techs that I do, they can't see anything off of fog. There's just no way. So you got to be able to do all of them.
Do you train for route work or hail or both?
I'm glad you asked that. I don't like either, to be quite honest with you. I think retail is. I've done all of them. I couldn't stand hail. Long story. Dealerships. The GMs and the UCMs out there. It's like constant. You know what you charge. You make more than I do. Nothing but. Beating me up trying to get lower prices and everything. At least in my area, that's the way it was. And then I started doing retail. So much better. That's what I really recommend people doing, because you feel so great at the end of the day. You want to go back versus beating up at car lots all day. It's like you're just another vendor to them, So
I would put retail in the route work.
Yeah.
Umbrella. Dealerships and retail. Yeah. So you're primarily not training for hail, primarily training for a local route.
Yeah. And almost all retail. I really try to push everybody into retail.
Okay. I think you answered this, but do you teach working inverted or right side up?
Both.
Or upside down?
And a whole lot more. Any position that'll take that strain off the wrist and the elbows and the back. Yep.
Do you offer advanced courses outside of the 2 people at a time, 2 weeks?
I do. Usually that's for large dent repair, though. So if it's a student of mine that did the small dents, usually that's, I would say I only get maybe 10% of my students ever come back for advanced, and that's when they've done the large dents and they're bored with the small stuff, right? And they want to learn large dents. So we do 1 week of intensive large dent theory, kicking in quarter panels and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Is that one-on-one, it sounds like?
That has to be one-on-one, because you never get 2 advanced techs at the same point. It just doesn't work.
Do you train techs for any large companies or just solo businesses?
I did at one time. I don't anymore, because their requirements have changed. They want speed. They want production, and quality is, I'm not saying out the door, but I don't anymore. No.
Yeah. Do you offer certification or test like to pass, like you graduated? And if you do, what's it based on?
Yeah, no certifications at all. That, in my opinion, certifications mean nothing. They really don't, because you have to be independent, and you have to be, for certification to mean anything, like let's say Vail certification, that is independent. That actually does mean something. But if I certified you, all that would say is I certified you. I don't know if you know the local tech. I'll tell you after we stop.
Yeah, we'll talk outside. Yeah, we'll keep it just to your school. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Do you test? So you come for 2 weeks. 2 weeks is over.
You get a diploma, but the certificate, I can certify. If you want to, I'll fill out something saying you're certified. It'll mean nothing. Just like it'll mean for any other school, nothing, because there's no certificate. There is no standards in PDR, dude. There's nothing. It's the Wild West out there, like herding a bunch of cats.
What are the package options and the cost?
Cost is $6,500 for the 2-week course. Advanced training, that varies. That has to be on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah. How can they pay you?
Check, cash, Zelle, credit card, man, whatever.
Cool. How far out do you book for training typically?
Right now, I'm kind of backing off just a bit, because we're going to be hopefully moving to Tennessee in a little while here, but I'm still doing it. Probably will for another couple of years. I do plan on retiring for good at 70, so I'll be going a little while longer.
And how many years till 70? Just out of curiosity, a couple?
Less than 2.
2 years. Wow. Okay. Close.
I'll do some advanced classes after that, and probably a few beginning here and there, but I don't think I'll ever get out of it entirely, because it's certainly not boring.
Yeah.
You'll look forward to getting up every day, but after a while, I've heard retirement gets boring. We'll see.
Best way for clients to reach out to you?
Well, probably from the website or on YouTube by email.
Emails on the website, phone numbers on the website.
All the good stuff's on the website.
A question I ask at the end of every podcast that I do is, where do you see the future of PDR going? And how are you helping it?
That's a good question. Are you talking about money, or are you talking about how the basic trade's going? Or
take it however you want. Are we going to be around in 20 years? Are we going to get paid more? Are we going to be replaced by robots? I don't know.
I was worried about that about 10, 12 years ago. And I don't know if you noticed, but they started experimenting with, the Saturn and Fiero different cars. They had nothing but problems with composite materials, resins and everything. From what I'm kind of tied in with Ford Motors and a couple other people because I have a long history in automotive. It's all going aluminum, and you better get used to it. That's just flat out the way it is. And that's the real shame of it. I know a lot of PDR techs are going, man, once aluminum comes in, I'm out. That's ridiculous. I mean, aluminum is it's no harder than steel to work. And in some cases it's actually easier, but if you work it the same way you work steel, yeah, it's a nightmare. I mean, we're going to have to adapt. We're going to have to. I mean, aluminum is going to be mainstream, and you better adapt to it.
All right. Anything else you want to share before we wrap it up about your school or anything like that I missed?
No, I mean, speaking about aluminum, that's something we do in a basic course, by the way. That is not an advanced technique. To me, you better learn it right now to be competitive. Yeah.
There you go, man. I appreciate it.
Yep. No problem, man.
All right.